1 minute. They show the results, Joe?
Welcome back, Steve.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 7 p.m. Mr. Withers, would you kindly do a roll call attendance beginning with Mr. Blair?
Hawker?
You're muted, Steve.
Mr. Blair,
Here.
Ms. DeSimone,
Here.
the Waterman,
Here.
Vice President Jackson,
Here.
Mr. Delissio,
Here.
Mr. Cobus,
Here.
Ms. Dolan,
Here.
Ms. Reynolds,
Here.
Ms. Holmes,
Present.
President Cooper,
Here,
10 yeas.
thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Conti is absent this evening. Thank you.
All right, yep.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 9th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote is in order and will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Vice President, I'm sorry, Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 21st, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 20th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments? Our roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair, I think.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of November 3rd.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes. Virginia, just to double check, I did June 9th, July 21st, August, did I do August 18th? Okay, August 20th and November 3rd. Okay, great, thank you. Moving right along to the public hearings. The first public hearing this evening, Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice for the roof
Yes,
at
I
the
will.
Brennan and Wamsutta Middle Schools, please.
The first public hearing is a loan order over the order the municipal council passed February 18th, 2020, relating to the remodeling of the roofs and interior of the Brennan Middle School and Wamsutta Middle School, be amended to add the additional purpose of the removal and replacement of the gymnasium floors and environmental hygienist monitoring at Hyman Fine and Hill Roberts Elementary Schools, so that the loan order as amended.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor?
President Cooper, Jack Jacobi would like to speak to the council.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me?
We can. Thanks, Jack.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
For the record, Jack Jacobi, 15 Prince Street, Chairman of the Municipal Building Commission. I'd like to take you back a little bit in history. The Hyman Fine and Hill Roberts schools were built in 1975. And at that time, the choice was made to put a composite floor down in the gyms rather than a wood floor. And as it turned out, these composite floors that were constructed between 1960 and 1980, when they start deteriorating, they emit mercury. And the school department has been noticing the deterioration. They have monitored the air quality. There is mercury in the air, but it is still within acceptable limits for the EPA and the DEP. But there is some urgency in addressing this issue. The good news is that we have about $990,000 left over in the middle school roof bond. And the mayor has suggested that we repurpose most of those funds to addressing this issue. I know this has been before this council before, and I know that all of the information you needed may not have been available, so I'd like to supplement that tonight. Originally, the cost was pegged at something a little over 500,000, but that cost was not a bid cost, nor was it a cost that was based on a professional design. It was an estimate. So we are in a position now where, because this is over $100,000, we need to go through designer selection. We need to choose a professional to design the removal and the replacement of these floors. The suggestion by the school department is that they would like to have wood floors, which I understand, if they're properly maintained, will last upwards of 50 years. These schools are about 45 years old. They probably will need to be rehabbed in the next 10 years or so, but this would not be a waste, because in my mind, we're looking at rehabbing these schools rather than tearing them down and starting over. They seem to be sound structures. They're 45 years old at this point. So what we would like to do is to ask you to repurpose $700,000, which would allow us to hire a designer. That designer would bring along a clerk of the works to oversee the construction and an industrial hygienist to make sure that we monitor the air quality and make sure that no one is affected by this project. Our thought is that if we could start the project over the April school vacation week, that it would give us a time to take the flooring up when no one was in the building. And it's probably about a 3-week project, and the two schools could go simultaneously with one contractor. So we are asking you to repurpose these funds so that we can get going on this project before the problem becomes something that is untenable. So that's my testimony.
Thank you, Jack. Any questions for Mr. Jacobi at this time? Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
President Cooper, Jeremy Stull would like to address the council.
Great. Hi, Jeremy.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right? I'm on a new device.
I can.
All right, great. So yes, as Jack Jacobi said, this is a project that's important to the school department and the administration, and he laid out some of the urgency. What I wanted to talk about a little bit more is what Jack had talked about in terms of timing, that it's important for us to get an RFP for a designer out in early 2021, so the Municipal Building Commission can go through the important designer selection process, and then start this process of removing the floors during April break. The Brennan-Wamsutta Middle School roof project, after some change orders and after adding a heat trace and some caulking changes and change orders, is $989,035 underneath budget. So the $700,000, not in newly authorized debt, but rather repurposed already authorized debt, is well under the cost savings that we have from the project. And I wanted to touch upon a concern I'd heard earlier about using free cash versus using borrowing, that these are floors that, as Jack Jacobi had said, last for decades, and that the benefit of these floors will be enjoyed by taxpayers, residents, school children for decades to come. And rather than using current resources for a decades-long improvement, we want to bear the cost over decades as the improvement is enjoyed. So as for the council's support, and I thank you for your time tonight.
Councilor DeLisio.
Thank you. Jeremy, thanks for joining us tonight. I think this is an important project. Over the last several weeks, I've had the opportunity to speak to several school committee members, understanding the severity of it, which I don't know is 100% given to us. But the question I have for you, Jeremy, is this is the second project I think that's come in really under budget, enough to fund another big project. Can you walk us through, where this seems unique? I don't really remember this ever happening in my tenure before. It may have, but is this something that you can touch upon?
Yeah, so we've talked with OPMs, our owner project manager, on a couple of different projects, both the library project and this, the two under budgets that you're referring to. Yep. And what they have seen in these projects, and then some of the other stuff that they have hands in as well, is that after kind of an economic shutdown in the spring and uncertainty throughout the summer, that a lot of contractors were starved for work, so to speak. So lots of folks came together, really sharpened their pencils, as they say, and gave us, really, really tight margins, which we hadn't initially put into these project budgets when we started, last spring or late 2019. As an example, we had a water main project just recently that we put on the street to come together and start work in the spring, and we had 20 bids. For a $3-ish million project, which is a ton of people interested. So when we get that sort of interest, when we get a market that there's not as much work for these big time projects out there in the private market, we're really getting some great prices in ways that we haven't seen recently.
Great. And I have to follow up, President Cooper.
Sure.
Thank you. That's great news, and that's kind of what I thought, but I just wanted to kind of hear that from you. The other question, you hear the adage, you get what you pay for. So when we're talking about the different changes to the middle school roofs and the change orders and the difference in caulking and whatnot, are you afraid that there's a potential of corners being cut?
No, I don't think so at all. We actually, we had a change order recently that came across the NBC's desk and was recommended by the NBC and then approved on the administration side for some additional dollars for our owner's project manager on that project, because they were really spending a lot of time making sure that our GC was getting, was crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So, if we save $1 million on the GC side and then spend $30,000 extra on the OPM side to make sure that low bid is up to snuff for what we need. I think it's worked out really well, and I think the other members of the MVC would say so as well.
Yeah, we've come to trust that board. So thank you for entertaining the questions. Thank you, President Cooper.
You're welcome. Any additional questions? Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in favor?
President Cooper, Frank Rich, Principal of Hill Roberts, would like to address the council.
Great. Mr. Rich, thank you.
Well, I actually really want to thank you all. I wanted to express my gratitude that this has come back up because, it's not only, we're looking at this really not only as a Hill Roberts and Hyman Fine project, but it really is more of a community project as well, because we do have quite a few community organizations who use the gym, whether it's the Attleboro Youth Basketball, who's there pretty much all winter, or, certainly the other Abacus and some of the other programs in the city. I know it's either the lacrosse or the field hockey, and I always get it mixed up, but one of them uses our space when the weather is inclement as well. So we certainly have quite a bit of community using it. And, over the years with who knows how many thousands of people have used these floors, certainly there's quite a bit of deterioration in quite a few spots. And we've just definitely had a growing concern about risk to injuries. When you expect the floor to slide when you stop and it's a hard stop or the opposite. And we start to worry about knees and other joints. And it's certainly, I think, due. And I really just want to express my sincere appreciation that you are taking this under consideration and looking at this project.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rich? Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
President Cooper, Thomas Whitaker, who's the gym teacher at Hyman Fine, would like to address the council. I brought him in as a panelist because he's using an older version of Zoom and I can't enable his mic.
Okay, great. Mr. Whitaker, how are you?
Good evening. How are you?
Great, thanks.
My apologies for the Zoom.
No
I
worries.
guess it's the Attleboro School Department, unfortunately.
No worries.
I just want to touch base. Everything that has been said already this evening by Principal Rich, as well as Jeremy, and to Mr. Stull, I can't remember the names. They have touched on everything we've said, but I'm actually there 7 hours a day, 8 hours a day on that floor, and I've been there for 8 years, and I've coached and I've taught lots of different schools. Safety is indeed an issue, and we can see the top layer starting to deteriorate over every single year. And it is an old gym floor. It served its purpose, but it's definitely a safety issue right now. We do see kids constantly falling, constantly slipping. And I think we've been fortunate not to have, a serious joint injury as it is right now. I think that it's very important that we move forward with this project just from our standpoint, because we're in there all day.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Whitaker? Thank you for your testimony. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
Mark, there are others on the Zoom, but none of them have raised their hand to.
Okay, I see Mark Furtado on there. Does anybody from the council have a question for Mark at this time? The committee can always reach out if they do. And nobody had any questions for Jack that needed to reach out to Mark. We can always reach Mark if we need to. He's reachable. So Mark, thank you for joining tonight. But the council doesn't have any questions for you at this time. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition this evening? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Mr. Waterman, Councilor Waterman, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
No, I do not.
I do not either. So that public hearing is closed. Thank you. Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice of the next public hearing relative to the elevator at the library?
On February 18th, 2020, the municipal council voted a loan order in the amount of $6,900,000 relating to the renovations to the Attleboro Public Library. An additional need was identified for the modernization of the elevator after the vote took place. Due to this identified need, it is necessary to amend the approved loan order to expand the scope of the authorization to include the elevator language.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? And I think Jack Jacobi is going to probably go first. Jim, if you can bring him in, that would be great.
Yep. Jack Jacobi has been enabled.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello again, Jack.
Hi again. Jack Jacobi, 15 Prince Street, Chairman of the Municipal Building Commission. We actually did this once before, but unfortunately the newspaper did not publish the advertisement, so we had to do the public hearing over. I have to tell you that the elevator repairs are in the bid that we got for this project. The bid came in approximately $1.8 million under budget, and we're holding a $700,000 contingency. So we hope to be able to turn a lot of money back to the council when this project is finished next summer. And the project has started. No elevator repair work has started yet, but they need to go ahead and order the pieces for that so that they can move forward. We held them off on doing anything until this council could take the appropriate action. So we hope that you will vote again to include the elevator repairs in this project.
Thank you. Any questions for Jack at this time? Jack, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone neither for nor against? Anybody neither for nor against? Okay. Councilor Waterman, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
No, I do not. Thank you.
That public hearing is also closed. Mr. Withers, would you kindly move on to the third public hearing this evening relative to Angeline Street?
Yes, this is a public hearing pursuant to Section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro as amended to lay out Angeline Street as a public way, length of 750 feet, from STA 200 plus 00 to STA 207 plus 50.2, and accept said way and any related drainage, water, or sewer facilities or easements, all as shown on a plan and profile entitled Street Acceptance Plan for Angeline Street, dated September 13th, 2019, prepared by Samuel A. White, Jr., RLS, which plan and profile have been deemed satisfactory to the Superintendent of Public Works.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Councilor Kovas, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
That public hearing is closed. Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the next public hearing relative to Palm Street?
Yes, this public hearing pursuant to Section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro as amended to lay out a portion of Palm Street, length of 55 feet, from STA 0 plus 00 to STA 0 plus 55 as a public way and accept said way and any related drainage, water, or sewer facilities or easements, all as shown on a plan and profile entitled Acceptance Plan, Palm Street, Attleboro, Mass, dated January 30th, 2012 by Joyce E. Hastings, PLS, and Daniel R. Campbell, RPE, which plan and profile have been deemed satisfactory to the Superintendent of Public Works.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Mr. Kovas, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. That public hearing is also closed. Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the last notice for this evening?
Certainly will. This is a public hearing pursuant to section 16-2.2 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro as amended to lay out Raymond Drive as a public way, length of 700.25 feet from STA 0+00 to STA 7+00.25, and accept said way and any related drainage, water, or sewer facilities or easements, all as shown on a plan and profile entitled Street Acceptance Plan of Land dated February 10th, 2020, prepared by Richard W. Reed, Jr., PLS, which plan and profile have been deemed satisfactory to the Superintendent of Public Works.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Mr. Jacobus, do you see any reason to keep that public hearing open?
I do not.
That public hearing is also closed, and we will move right along to the mayor's communication.
Okay. December 1st, 2020, dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from Health Agent Alan Perry regarding the receipt of a Sustainable Materials Recovery Program municipal grant from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. The amount of the grant this fiscal year is approximately $39,000 in recycling dividend funds. The funds do not have to be spent in the fiscal year received and may be carried over to future years. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve expending such funds and any future grant amendments. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
Okay. I respectfully submit a communication from Attleboro Public Schools Director of Finance, Mark Furtado, regarding fiscal year 2020 fiscal obligations that were not received in time to be processed in the normal fiscal year 2020 business cycle. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to authorize the school department to pay these previous year bills, school bills totaling $338.99, as identified in Mr. Furtado's communication. Copies in your packets.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
Okay. I respectfully submit a communication from, hang on a minute, Director of Veteran Services, Ben Quell, regarding the donation of $230 in Stop and Shop gift cards from an anonymous donor. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims Committee.
Excuse me. I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Veteran Services, Ben Quell, regarding the donation of $50 in Market Basket gift card from Lawrence Quellia. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Public Works, Michael Tyler, regarding the need to replenish funds used for an unexpected time-earned payment. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $9,227.39 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Public Works Salary and Wages. Upon approval, the available balance in Reserve Fund for transfer to include any pending requests will be $256,219.42. Copies in your packets.
Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee, please.
Stuck together here. All right, I am requesting funds to replace the existing trash bins in the city center. The existing bins are old, damaged, falling apart, and have outlived their useful life. If the city is serious about attracting and retaining businesses to the city center, we need to take this necessary step to improve the cleanliness of the sidewalks. Additionally, there are too few trash bins in the city center, and the ones that are there are not located in optimal places. The Solid Waste Administrator and I have a plan to rectify this problem. Your approval is a necessary step for the plan to improve the overall cleanliness of the city center. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $9,938.73 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Citywide Trash Receptacles. Upon approval, the available balance in Reserve Fund for transfer, including any pending requests, will be $255,280.69.
Public Works Committee, please.
And sincerely, Paul Haru, Mayor.
Thank you. And moving along to the clerk's communication.
Yes, the first one is a certificate of vote from the planning board to recommend the library loan order for $6,900,000 and amendments to the existing loan order regarding elevator improvements.
Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, please.
We received a specific vote from the planning board to recommend the roof and interior repairs at Brennan and Wamsutta Middle School loan order for $3,900,000 and amendments to the existing loan to include the Hyman Fine and Hill Roberts Gymnasium floor repair and replacement.
Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, please.
We received, a letter to all councilors with an invitation to be part of the recorded program for Dr. Martin Luther King Day celebration.
Copy to all councilors.
Okay. A Form F application from attorney Constance Paholic requesting a review of fee required by the zoning board for 1815 County Street.
Zoning and Land Use Committee, please.
And I just want to say, I believe that his name is Constant, not Constance. So it's a T in the end, I believe. Who was that referred to? I'm sorry.
Zoning and Land Use.
Thank you. I received a public notice mailed to the council regarding an application by POAH Hebronville Mill LLC to repair and reset spillway crest stones and wall faces and do some gate work in and over the 10 Mile River at around 988 Reed Street.
Zoning and Land Use Committee, please.
Okay. The following applications were received for Class 2 licenses. Route 123 Village Auto, 1076 Pleasant Street for 15 customer parking spaces and 15 display spaces. That's the business name on the document in the clerk's office. We received Bristol County Auto Sales at 227 Pine Street with 10 customer parking spaces and 10 display. And Mike's Auto at 801 South Main Street with 10 customer parking spaces and 15 spaces.
Steve, is there a difference between what's on the application and what's on in the clerk's office? Is that why you pointed that out in this communication?
I have to tell you honestly, Mark, I did not look at that. I've only been back 2 days.
If I may,
I believe it's Route 120. I believe it's Route 120 Village Auto is the name.
Okay.
the reason for that notation was because the clerk's office wasn't open when I was trying to put it together, and then it came across it later.
Okay.
Okay.
So that'll, that will go to the license committee.
Yep. We received a request for an automatic amusement device license at 65 Prairie Avenue, the Portuguese American Club.
License committee, please.
And we received a communication from attorney Steve Andrioni with 2 letters he had previously filed with the dissatisfaction of the Angeline Street layout.
Zoning and Land Use Committee, and there was a copy provided to all counselors.
Okay, and that's it.
Okay. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go to enter into committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any question? Oh, wait a minute. Roll call vote is required. I think we're starting with Mr. Blair.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Blair.
Excuse me, yes.
Okay, Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
yes,
Mr. Cobus,
yes,
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are now in committee of the whole. If there's anyone that would like to address the council at this time, now's on any matter of city business, now's the time to do so. I see 2 people as participants. Going once. My grandmother told me that when you do this, you're supposed to sing "My Country 'Tis of Thee" in your head. I'll spare you from singing it out loud, but that's what she told me.
you don't need to spare us.
No, I will. Maybe on the last Zoom call that we do, I'll do that for you, Jay.
I appreciate it, President Cooper.
That'll be in 2022.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to arise.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote will begin with Council Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. At this time, we'll go on to committee reports, beginning with Council Blair.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. I have one motion to bring forward tonight from the docket of December 1st, 2020. I move to approve the transfer of $21,705.95 from account 1124100-57830 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1210100-515075 police earned time for needed funds due to the retirement of an employee on November 5th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments, Council Blair?
This was a longtime city police officer that retired on the 5th, and we wish him the best. And this is money he's got coming to him as contractual, and so.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Council Blair.
Yep, Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson. Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That's all I have this evening, Mr. President, and a call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Great. Thank you.
President Cooper, Transportation and Traffic has no business to bring forward this evening. However, we look forward to and welcome a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Waterman.
Yes, the capital improvements and public, the City Development Committee has no business tonight. We'll meet at the next appropriate time. And also, shall I go forward?
Yes.
Okay. Reporting from Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee from the docket of December 1, 2020. I would move to approve the appointment of Sharon Fortune of 16 Brook Street, Attleboro, to fill an unexpired term on the Election Commission, term to expire February of 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
No, we met with Sharon last week. She's very enthusiastic, and I think she will be doing an excellent job.
Great. Thank you. Any additional comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And also from the docket of December 1st, 2020, I move to approve the appointment of Karen K. Murray, 32 Jewel Avenue in Attleboro, to fill an unexpired term on the Council on Substance Abuse Prevention, term to expire February 2023.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
We're getting a professional here. She knows this business. I'm very happy with this appointment.
Great. Any additional questions Comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Counselor Holmes.
Councilor Blair, I think, Mr. Cooper.
My bad. Counselor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Jacobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And that concludes all the business of the Personnel, Veterans, Human Services Committee. We'll meet at the next appropriate time.
Great. Thank you. Vice President Jackson.
Thank you, President Cooper. Reporting for the Public Works Committee, I have no business this evening, but would like to call for a committee meeting at the appropriate time next week.
Great. Thank you. Counselor Delicio.
Thank you, President Cooper. I don't have any business for budget and appropriations tonight, but I do just want to remind people that this Saturday is the Stuff a Cruiser event. The Stuff a Cruiser event is a volunteer-run gift-giving program that provides Christmas gifts to local children who otherwise would go without a gift on Christmas Day. So people are invited to bring a toy or a non-perishable food item to support local food pantries, but gift cards will also be accepted. And donations can be made the day of the event at Burlington Coat Factory in South Attleboro. So that is all the business we have tonight, and I'd like to call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Cobus.
Thank you. Reporting for the Zoning and Land Use Committee, I have one piece of business tonight. From the docket of December 1st, 2020, I move to accept an easement as shown on a sketch entitled Basin Easement Exhibit A. This is needed so the city may install and maintain one or more water filtration basins on a limited portion of 35 County Street in order to allow water that pools in the rear of the property to undergo proper filtration and to be directed to the city's drainage pipe, which releases excess water into the 10-mile river.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments? Counselor Cobus.
I spoke with the owner of the property and they are anxious to get this moving, especially as the winter's coming and water's pulling up at that location. And there's the potential of freezing and whatnot. So, yeah.
So can you, I missed last week. I didn't have a chance to go back and watch the video, but can you help me? I went by there today. Can you sort of help me understand exactly where the one or more structures might be, and what did we get any idea of what it might cost the city to put these structures in the ground, and what type of structures we're going to put in the ground if we put any one or more?
So I am not aware of the cost of the basins, so I don't have that answer for you. But they would be by the parking lot on Riverbank. So the property is on County Street, which is why it's listed as such. But due to the renovations that have happened there, water has been pooling in that parking lot because of those new sidewalks, and so there's some concerns that it could be a safety hazard as a result of those sidewalks now.
So I guess I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Okay.
I went by there today to check it out, and yes, there's water in that parking lot for sure, and a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
But with 3.5 inches of rain, there's always been water in that parking lot, with or without sidewalks there, in my opinion. I've been there when there's been water up to my neck, over the chain link fence when those modular units were built across the street. And you couldn't go over the bridge. You couldn't go over the bridge from the library. It was underwater. So it's been that extreme over there to what there is there today. So I'm sure the sidewalks probably exacerbated because they're a pretty high off of the grade of the lot, but the lot before the sidewalks was lower than the grade of the road. So, you know, water doesn't go uphill unless it's pumped, right? Donnie Burnt told me that years ago on the planning board. So
Fair enough.
I'm not opposed to this because I think it's the right thing to do in that location. We have done a lot of improvements and renovations over there that probably contributed to the problem. But I'm just a little bit leery about what we're potentially getting into with one or more and an unknown cost. And that's where I'll stop my comments. I'm in support. Something's got to be done. It's the parking lot's underwater today. I went by there today. Nobody can park there today. So we solved nothing by putting the curb cuts in and putting the parking and trying to do the right thing by enhancing the safety over there, because there's nowhere to park but in the street.
Fair enough. And I do agree that County Street and the bottom of that hill have been a problem with drainage for a long time.
So isn't it behind 35 County Street though? It's behind the.
True.
where the garage
I'm
is.
just saying that location in general has been a problem spot for drainage for a long time.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Councilor Blair.
Quick question. That parking lot, that's not municipal, am I correct?
It is not.
That's privately owned?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested in the cost. You know, I don't know if I agree with Mark. I'm a lifelong resident of Attleboro. That's always been a flood area.
Mhm.
You know, so whose fault is it? I really would like to take a look at it myself to see if the sidewalk, if I think the sidewalk, you know, contributed to a major situation. But most parking lots, if it's got a low area, when you get rain like we got last night, it's going to settle in those low areas till it evaporates. That's got to be quite an extensive procedure to drain that parking lot into that river. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
It's your meeting, Mark.
President Cooper. I know. I just want to comment back. I saw Sarah first, and I don't want to go before Sarah, but I do want to say I went by there today, Pete, and I think we contributed to it. That's the only reason why I'm in support tonight. If I didn't think that, I wouldn't be supporting this tonight. I think in trying to make improvements to the area with the sidewalks and the street and the additional parking, I think we contributed to the ability for water to run off in any way. They do have a low point, and I'm hoping that that's where they're going to put the drains. I'm sure that's where they're going to put them. It makes sense. And then they're going to catch that water and they're going to send it into the city system. It just makes sense to do it that way. When you go by there, I'm sure tomorrow the water will still be there, and hopefully it'll be less than what was there when I went by today. But it's always sort of been a problem, and we didn't help matters and make it any better, other than we made it safer to walk there, and we made it safer with parking, and we made it easier for people to access the businesses in that area with the additional parking and making the street wider. So all of those things were good things, but and that's why I'm saying I'm in support this evening. But I have concern about doing these types of things on municipal properties. You know, we are getting the right easement, though. We have the right to do it now. They're granting it to us. Councilor Reynolds, I saw your hand, and then back to Councilor Blair.
So I'm in the same lines. I actually saw it today myself too, and I know we've always had problems there, but I actually would like to. I mean, I feel like voting no on it because I don't know the cost. I have issues with not knowing the cost, and if the cost ends up like out of control, should we be asking the builder as well to support some of that cost? Even though a lot of the issues are, as you say, Mark, improvements that we've made. I'm not really sure, but I really have no idea what the cost is going to be, and that's problematic for me.
It's not for me because the cost is coming back to us. We're going to decide on the cost because we all know the DPW can't cover the cost of this. If it's a couple $1,000s, none of us are going to squawk, right?
No,
But if
right,
it's 20 or 30 or 40,000, we're all going to squawk, right? Because and that's going to have to come back to us.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm okay. That's why I'm saying I'm okay with it. Maybe I'm sorry I didn't articulate it.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Blair, Jackson, and then Dolan.
I didn't have my hand up, Mark.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Blair.
Mark, I feel better even thinking about it. You saying you went by and we are a contributor as a city that flooding. I still would like to see the price. I'm like Sarah, but as you explained, it's going to come back to us anyway to approve that, unless it's minute.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Welcome, Vice President Jackson.
Thank you, President Cooper. Last week, Councilor Kobus had his committee meeting and nobody even balked at this. Nobody said anything about the cost. Nobody even asked him to find out about it before this evening. And I find that, and I know President Cooper, you were not with us, but I find it funny that everybody's talking about it tonight when Councilor Kobus could have found out ahead of time before this evening, before the vote, if someone had mentioned their concerns. And if I may ask a question to Councilor Kobus through the
Sure.
Councilor Kobus, did you have a chance? I know you said you spoke with the owners. Did you have a chance to speak with Superintendent Tyler at all?
I have not.
Okay. I do know that I spoke with him like a couple of weeks ago when we actually got the map of where the basins are going.
Right.
And he explained to me that in the past, when basins had to be put in place, they just automatically did it with the owners. But because our city solicitor, who reviewed this, she has now said, I would prefer that we have it done this way through the city council. And, of course he agreed with that, but he said it just in the past, before he was even superintendent, this is the way they used to do it. But she just said, I would feel so much better if we had everything in writing that we were able to put these basins on private property. I don't know anything about the cost. That's a question I never asked him, but that's just what I know about it.
And that's my understanding as well, that this is a relatively a new process that we're doing with to go through the proper paperwork and get the easements. Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's the right process. We should be getting permission in writing to go on personal property with our backhoe and dig a hole in the ground and put something in it that we own, that we maintain. I think that's the right thing to do. There's nothing funny about it. It was a question I had. I had 100,000 things going on today, and when I called Virginia, it was on my list to ask her, and I forgot to ask her. And I, like I said, I think we contributed to it. I'm in support of it. I think it's the right thing to do. I drove by there today when I tried to remember not to forget to go over there, and I looked at it quick and I said, no, slam dunk. Look at the water. Got 3.5 inches of rain. It's a mess. Something's got to be done. If these businesses were open, there'd be no place to park because you can't use the lot. This was stupid. Why did we spend all this money on sidewalks when you can't use the parking lot? Stupidity. Put the drain in. Makes sense. But I did have a question about if we knew the cost. If we don't, we don't. But it'll come back to us if it's a lot of money. So that concludes my comment. Thank you. Jackson, Councilor Kobus.
Just one quick thing to add to the discussion is from a strategic perspective with regard to downtown revitalization and growing that area. These specific business types are strategically important and valuable to that revitalization. So from a strategic perspective, it is important to us that this business is successful downtown.
Mhm. Agreed. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote begins with Counselor Holmes.
Holmes, yep. Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business for the Zoning and Land Use Committee, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Counselor Dolan.
Reporting for Licenses Committee, I have two motions this evening from the docket of December 1st, 2020. I move to approve the following 8 applications for a Class 2 license. 97 Emory Street, located at 97 Emory Street with 7 customer spaces and 30 display spaces. J Motor Group at 1856 County Street with 4 customer parking spaces and 20 display spaces. Cartown USA at 680 Washington Street with 9 customer parking spaces and 20 display spaces. Lime Rock Motors at 722 Washington Street with 4 customer spaces and 48 display spaces. State Line Auto at 1115 Washington Street with 6 customer spaces, 42 display spaces, and 55 storage. Landmark Auto Sales, 537 Washington Street with 3 customer spaces and 15 display. New England Cars, 923 Washington Street with 7 customer spaces and 33 display spaces. Best Buy Auto and Tires, 925 and 932 Washington Street, 8 customer spaces and 40 display spaces.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments or questions from the council? Great.
None.
Thank you. Seeing none, roll call vote is required, and we'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
From the docket of October 20th, 2020, I move to approve the application from the South Attleboro Post 312 on Newport Avenue for an automated amusement device license for a jukebox and a pool table.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional questions or comments?
None.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry.
I
I
thought
thought it was,
we were close.
Steve, who'd you have?
what's that?
Who'd you have as the second on that?
I thought it was Kate. It sounded like Kate.
It wasn't.
I think it was
It was Diana. It was
I think
Diana
it was
then.
Diana, yes.
Diana.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Sorry about that. Any additional comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, the roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That's all the business I have for Licenses Committee, and I'd like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you. Reporting for City Property and Claims Committee. I have 2 motions from the docket of December 1st, 2020. I move to accept the generous donation of $200 of Stop and Shop gift cards from an anonymous donor to the Veterans Services Office.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments?
I do not.
Thank you.
Who was the second on that?
Councilor Dolan.
Jay.
Oops.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
No, I have none.
Great. Thank you. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of December 1st, 2020, I move to accept the generous donation of $300 of Stop and Shop gift cards from the Disabled American Veterans of Attleboro to the Veterans Services Office.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments or questions?
I have none.
Thank you. Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Motion passes.
That is all the business City Property and Claims Committee has this evening, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. Reporting for Ordinance, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee, I have 4 motions this evening. From the docket of September 22nd, 2020, I move to approve the proposed amendments for the ordinance changes for the following amendments. Section 11-22, use of balloons. 11-22, use of balloons. 11-20.
Second.
Thank you.
So are you waiving the reading of the rest of this? 4 sentences?
I can read it. It's up to you.
You don't have to. I don't
Okay.
care. Who seconded?
I did.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments or questions? Councilor Holmes, any?
I really don't. This is one part of that environmental ordinance, and just trying to, I think we should just vote it, see how the council feels about it and move to the next step.
Yep. Councilor Dolan, did I see your hand?
Yes. So these balloons, I know people definitely do this less than they used to, but this has huge environmental and wildlife detrimental impacts to this. And I'm just hoping that everybody has thought about it, and I'm hoping y'all will consider supporting this and passing this. Thank you.
Any additional, Councilor Delissio?
Thank you. Really, all I want to say is my biggest fundamental problem with this is not the intent. It's not the environmental or the wildlife impact. It's just the fact that it's an unenforceable ordinance. And, you know, historically, we've seen things like this come across. This one's just very, very hard to enforce, almost impossible to enforce.
Councilor Blair?
Okay, yeah, you got there ahead of me. I don't think it is enforceable. I can't see a police officer during a parade seeing a balloon go up and running over and giving that person a fine or the parent a fine. It's something I grew up with balloons. They were part of an event, and I don't know enough about it to think it's that big of an environmental impact. I can't support it.
Councilor DeSimone and then
Yes.
Dolan?
So I'm all in on these balloons. I wholeheartedly concur with Councilor Dolan's comments that although it perhaps may seem silly, it may seem frivolous, it may seem unnecessary, these in fact do cause damage all over the world. So you can't think of it in terms of, well, what's one balloon? You have to take the power of larger numbers and say, if this happens all over the place, it is indeed an impact. And it's something so easy. As far as enforceability, you're right. If a kid lets go of a balloon, what are you going to do? Or even an adult, accidents happen. However, are you familiar with the baby sex parties, the gender release parties where they release balloons and do all the sorts of crazy stuff that have in fact led to significant fires out west? Yeah. So that happens. Other parties, people get together. Balloons are part of many different celebrations across cultures. I don't think it's something to be taken lightly, although I do appreciate your comments, Councilor Delissio, about enforcement. And lastly, I want to keep in mind one thing. Ordinances do more than necessarily bring fines, or they also send messages. And I think this is part of a message that this is indeed important. It's worthy of consideration. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is deter behavior. We don't want it to happen. We, in fact, don't want to enforce it. We're hoping it won't happen. That message has to start with an ordinance like this. So however, I had suggested some changes because I also think there's an issue with people tying them up and then becoming untied and released into the environment, but I won't push that issue tonight. So I did a little research, and this is not unusual. There's ordinances and bylaws like this all over. Some are, in fact, statewide in some places. So although it may seem trivial and unnecessary to some, it's a step in a direction that I think we have to take. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan, and then Holmes, and then Delicio.
So, I mean, I understand about the enforceability. I mean, probably 90% of our ordinances in the city of Attleboro won't be enforced. I mean, you talk about a dog pooping on somebody's yard, we have those ordinances, but you're not going to see an officer pull up and give somebody a ticket. And this isn't about having a party and having balloons at a party. This is about intentionally releasing them. This is like when people have memorials for certain things, they'll release numerous amounts of balloons, which is, you know, can be a beautiful thing, but it's detrimental to the environment and our waterways and our wildlife and everything. So this isn't about little Bobby accidentally losing his balloon and he's going to go to, you know, jail. This is about intentionally releasing large amounts of balloons. So people can still have balloons at parties. That's not what this is about. This is intentionally releasing balloons for no legitimate reason, really. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. Am I muted? No. Okay, so Councilor DeSimone is on my committee, so we weren't able to really talk, but I think that if there are any amendments, I think we should welcome them and they should be potentially discussed. So I would encourage that if there's anything that could be added, we should consider that. And that concludes my comments.
Councilor Delicio, and then Blair.
So, Councilor DeSimone, I appreciate your comments. And again, as I started mine off with, this isn't about the intention, and I'm not denying environmental impacts. That's not what I'm saying. Fundamentally, though, my time on the council, you know, we've always struggled with ordinances that aren't enforceable. Why do we have ordinances that aren't enforceable? Why are we okay having ordinances that aren't enforceable?
You're unmuted. You're unmuted.
I know.
So again, it's about having, if the right ordinance came in with the right level of ability to enforce it, it could be a different conversation. I'm not saying it's frivolous. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is, I think the police in this day and age have a lot more, they have a lot of different priorities that they need to deal with, and chasing down someone who let a balloon go intentionally or unintentionally, I'm not sure that's going to rank high on their list of priorities. And again, I want to stress, I did not say this was frivolous. I actually said the opposite. I said I understand the intent, but fundamentally, I struggle with voting in favor of an ordinance that can't be enforced. Why have a public meeting, public hearing? Why pay the advertising, all of this? Why go through the effort of having an ordinance on the books that we can't enforce? It seems counterproductive to what we're supposed to be doing as lawmakers. Thank you.
Councilor Blair.
An amendment to this might satisfy both sides. If we amended it to say an intentional release of a large amount of balloons as unlawful, multiple balloons. I don't know how you'd word it, to be honest with you, President Cooper, but maybe an amendment would help in that respect.
In 11-22.1, it says, it talks about intentionally releasing the balloons in the air.
Okay. So it's in there already, Steve.
Yes, it said no
No
person shall be
person-
allowed to intentionally release balloons into the air.
Okay, thank you.
In front of you.
Counselor Reynolds.
So I think an amendment could be no person or groups shall be allowed to intentionally, so you add the groups, because I think it's important to specify, you're not going to, I'm sure a policeman isn't going to run into Capron Park and, run after some 14-year-old kid that maybe let go of his balloon. But I think that there is a great value in the fact that there are large groups that do release balloons. And I think that's the issue we're basically talking about. So even 1122-2 could say, no person or group shall leave any remnants intentionally of balloons behind. Add it in that second one. And to answer Councilor Delicio around the ordinance being fined, maybe for the first year, to me, it kind of goes along with what Kathleen is saying. It's kind of letting people know that this is an issue, that Attleboro finds this an ecological issue. And maybe for this moment in time, for the first year, we don't fine people. Maybe it's not a fine. We're really trying to get people to realize this is an ordinance. Maybe there's some kind of a way for us to get this out. This is a new ordinance. We're concerned about these things. And it's not so much a fine unless we see a lot of people, just pushing their nose up over it, because I do think it is an issue and I'm comfortable with it. I think it's hard to enforce, but I don't think it would be difficult to enforce if there were 50 balloons going off in Capron Park. I think, then somebody would notify the police and they might go over and find the group that had it. It's a way to let people know that we're not allowing it in the city anymore. That's what I think the point is for the ordinance. I could be wrong. Those comments.
Counselor Dolan.
Amendment to add intentionally in 11.2.2.
Counselor Reynolds, are you suggesting to make the amendment to 22.1 and 22.2 because it says in 1 and 2?
Yes. So it would say no person and or group shall be allowed to intentionally release balloons, and 22.2 would say no person and or group shall intentionally leave any remnants of balloons behind.
And then delete 11-22.3.
I would delete that that would be my suggestion, delete that one for the time being.
Let's do those as two separate motions, and I'd be happy to second.
So wait a minute.
Well, they're in there. I'm sorry, Mark. Councilor Cooper.
The first amendment is
no person
and or
group
21.1 and
no
or groups in 21.2.
Yes.
And shall intentionally leave. So you're adding the word intentionally.
Correct.
Amendment number 1. Is that right?
That's correct.
Second. Did anybody second?
Todd did. Is that right, Councilor Kobitz?
That is correct.
Okay. So now on the amendment, any discussion on the amendment? Okay, roll call vote on the amendment. We'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Actually, amendment passes.
Right.
Now we're to the motion as amended. Councilor Reynolds.
I'm sorry, we're doing that first, then we'll go back to 11.2.3, correct? Yes. We just approved the amended.
We just approved 22.1 and 22.2 to make the changes you suggested.
Okay, and now we're going to vote on those. Or do I take another amendment? My request was to eliminate 11.22.3 for the time being. That was
Who seconded that?
Diana.
Any discussion on the removal? Counselor Cobus, Dolan, and then Delicio.
So I am not supportive of this. I think anything, there needs to be something in there, some sort of a fine, and $20 isn't significant.
Counselor Dolan.
Yeah, I would like, I'm not supportive either. And again, I think that this might be a discretion thing. I understand Counselor Reynolds' point about, the first year or giving warnings or whatever. I agree with that. And I think it's kind of like a speeding ticket. The officer has a discretion. So if an officer is walking down the street and he sees all these people that are having a memorial service that are going to release balloons, maybe he just says something and doesn't necessarily give a ticket. I think it's more or less like that. And that's all I have to say.
And Counselor Delicio.
Thank you.
And then Reynolds.
I actually feel that 11-22.2 is actually more enforceable than 11-22.1, because if we're using public space, you need a permit. So when the city's cleaning up, taking care of it, if they go and they see it, we'll have their information. So, potentially we add the $20 to 11-22.2. I don't know if there's an appetite for that. If so, I'd make an amendment.
Second.
So no, wait a minute. We're talking about the amendment to the motion as amended to remove 22.3. Counselor Reynolds.
So I would even be willing or suggest an amendment to that to say, again, we go back to any person and or group intentionally violating any section of this ordinance shall be fined $20 by Attleboro Police. So it's back to the intentional thing. Because some people might not know it the first time around, as Counselor Dolan says, and so it's at the discretion.
They all say they don't know.
I know.
How many times you get stopped
I
by the
know,
police
but if you
going
caught him
45
right,
miles an hour down
I
Old
know,
Post
but if
Road
you-
in North Attleboro, and you say, I didn't know the speed limit was 30.
I know, but it's just,
Come on.
again, it gets back to the intentional. That's my, and our group. And those are my comments.
So Counselor DeSimone.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Did Council Reynolds make another motion? Or are we still discussing the?
You're discussing the removal of 22.3.
I do not support the deletion of 11-22.3.
Anybody, any other questions or comments on 22.3? Seeing none, roll call vote will on the motion as amended to remove 22.3. A yay vote is to remove it. A no vote is to keep it. Any questions?
Who was the second on that one? That was Peter, right?
No, it was Counselor Holmes.
Okay. Okay.
Any questions? I believe with the roll call vote begins with Counselor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
wait a minute. Ms. Dolan,
No.
Mr. Cobus,
No.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
No.
Mr. Waterman,
No.
Ms. DeSimone,
No.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
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 President Cooper.
No.
It looks like I've got 4 yeas and 6 noes.
Motion fails. So we are to the original motion as amended, include section 11-22.3. Any additional, Counselor DeSimone?
President Cooper, I'd like to propose amendment, perhaps 11-22.25, which pertains to balloons that are tethered and intentionally left unattended and could thereby be released. So the language, if I may, I would like to propose the following: that no person shall tether an inflated balloons outdoors and intentionally leave them unattended.
Second.
Wait a minute. Wouldn't it be 11-22.4?
Sure, if you want to do that. I don't know if you want to make a sub to 2, whatever works.
Because isn't it 1, 2, and 3?
It is, yes.
So repeat it for me so I can.
Yes, so 1122.4, no person shall, or people or group, shall tether inflated balloons outdoors and intentionally leave them unattended.
Okay.
So we're adding this one because it's not in the, it's not,
Yeah, this would be in addition, 11-22.4. Was there a second? Councilor Holmes. Okay, any discussion on the motion as amended? Councilor Holmes, then
So,
Corbett.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. So is it public, it's public places it can't be? Is that what we said? Is that what it said?
That wasn't
Like,
in there.
Private property, if, and somebody has it, that's not a problem, but it's
Whether they're released from public or private, they're going to wind up in the same place. So that's where the damage comes from. So I did not include language regarding where they were located as currently proposed.
So I guess, you know, Attleboro, we've done like a lot with things like that though. Like, I don't know if you remember, like when the teachers were laid off in 2016, everybody had kind of a blue balloon outside their house. And, you know, I feel like this should probably say something like public in there. Because if somebody has a private party or they're at their end of their driveway, that's even indicating that they wouldn't be able to do that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Councilor Kobus.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the intent of this amendment, but I'm not supportive of this. I don't think I can't support this, but I do appreciate the intent.
Any Councilor DeSimone.
Yeah, I would just point out that the distinction as to how they get released doesn't mitigate the damage that they do after they are released. That concludes my comments. So whether they're released by a person accidentally or they're tied up and they become loose and float, the damage is the same. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional comments? This is on the amendment, adding 11-22.4. Roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Line vote, Coop, Army.
Oh, yes. A yes vote would be you want to add the amendment. A no vote would be you do not want to add the amendment.
Thank you.
The roll call vote will begin with, I believe, Councilor Blair. Steve?
I think so. Mr.
Okay.
Blair,
No.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
No.
Mr. Kobus,
No.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
No.
Ms. Holmes,
No.
President Cooper.
No.
So we have 4 yeas and 6 nays.
So the amendment fails. So we are back to the motion as amended. Any additional questions or comments? Councilor Delissio.
Thank you, President Cooper. I still, again, want to reiterate that I'm not challenging the intent. I'm not challenging the damage. I'm challenging the enforceability of it. And without teeth, I feel it's feel-good legislation that won't have the impact people are looking for without the ability to enforce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Kobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
No.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
No.
President Cooper.
Yes.
So we got 8 yeas and 2 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. President Cooper, do I have to call for the public hearing and have a vote for that as well?
Yeah, you can waive the reading of the of the ordinance, just read 10-4.18.
Thank you. So from the docket of March 17th, 2020, I would like to call for a public hearing for January 5th, 2020. It would be on the ordinance 10-4.18 permanent traffic calming measures.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. This is to call for a public hearing on permanent traffic calming measures. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Let's see. Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Cobus.
Yes.
Mr. Delissio.
Yes.
Vice President Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of April 7th, 2020, request amendments to ordinance 16-10-14 for the water fees installations. I entertain a motion to approve the ordinance change and to increase fees charged by the water department as follows. The mayor requests the following amendments to section 16-10 through 16-14 of the revised ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any additional comments? Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. So again, we had the public hearing in early spring. There would, the administration is going to bring down new fees in January. So I think this didn't really seem to have a lot of support. I think we should regroup and wait for those changes to come down in January, have a new public hearing and go from there. As you recall, the public hearing happened in the spring. This is when we were first getting used to like Zoom meetings. And we, at that time, did not have a lot of people even knowing how to log in potentially. And I feel like just give a better opportunity for the public to speak would be helpful. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
You lost me there, Mr. President. What exactly are we voting on?
Pete,
this is amendment.
Yep. So this is the water, the fees associated with water line extension, backflow preventers. So a yes vote is you want the fees that were proposed by the administration. A no vote keeps the fees where they are today.
Thank you. No.
Steve, did we lose you?
I'm here. Oh, roll call vote, you said?
Roll call vote with Councilor Blair, yes.
Mr. Blair, yes. Ms. DeSimone.
No, he was a no, Steve.
Oh, he was a no. I'm just trying to figure everything out. Like, Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
No.
Vice President Jackson.
Kate, you're muted.
I think.
Yes.
Oh.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Delissio.
No.
No. Mr. Cobus.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
No.
Ms. Holmes.
No.
President Cooper.
No.
4 yeas, 6 nays.
Motion fails.
Thank you. From the docket of July 17, 2018, I move to strike the following: a new ordinance as it pertains to smoking restrictions in cars with children.
Second.
Who seconded that?
Second. Me, President Cooper.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any additional comments?
Thank you. This has been in committee for quite some time. It's we had a public hearing a few years ago related to this, and it's something that a city usually doesn't take on. So I just like to strike it from the committee and to clean up the committee, basically, hoping that it can. That's it.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Who was the second again? Oh, Kathleen, right?
Kathleen.
Yes, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call vote, and this is a motion to strike. We'll begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Let's see. Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the business this evening for Ordinance, Elections, and Legislative Matter Committee, and I'll call for a committee meeting at the next time. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no, where's my paper? There is no old business. There's no new business at this time. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A roll call vote to adjourn will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Delicio,
Yes.
Mr. Cobus,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
President Cooper,
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:30.
Council Cobus, tell everybody not to leave yet. Tell them your
don't-
magic number.
Don't leave yet. I heard back
Just
from my
say a magic number.
magic number, $450.
That's
Just
right.
say, that's it.
Sorry.
But they don't work for free. They don't work for free.
Right,
That's all I'm
plus
going to
labor.
say. Good night.
Good night.
They don't work for free. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.